Hello and welcome to a truly special episode of the Upside Musings podcast. My name is Okey Ndibe. It's my delight to welcome you on behalf of my co-host, Emeka Onyeagwa. Today, Emeka and I have somebody that we have looked forward to hosting for, I would say, for more than a year. And so we are truly excited, and we think that our listeners are going to be excited as well. This young woman has become something of a household name, especially when you talk about Nigerian politics. Weyimi Lube. Weyimi, did I pronounce the
Yes, you
last name
did.
correctly? So
Yes, you
Weyimi
did.
Lube is a social commentator, a creative, and a great advocate for good governance in Nigeria and around the world. She currently works in interior design, and she sees herself, I would say, justifiably as a powerhouse with a powerful voice. This young woman indeed has a powerful voice, and we're going to hear her voice in a moment. She's a lover of books, which is another reason that I'm really, really excited. And especially, she's a lover of books written by Nigerian authors, of which I happen to be one. So, Weyimi, what a delight, what a pleasure to welcome you finally to the Offside Museums podcast. You're welcome.
Thank you so much
Welcome.
for having me. Thank you so much. Please, once again, forgive my voice. I'm down with a cold, but I don't
Well,
care. I want to be here.
yes.
Sound great.
Yes, you
Thank you
sound
so much.
very, very good. So if this is your croaky voice, it would be a scandal to hear the voice when you don't have a cold. So thank you very much. So Weyimi, let's start with, for me, what is sort of natural. You say that you are a lover of books, especially books by Nigerian authors. Well, I happen to be a scribbler of books. So let me ask, have you read anything that I have written? Let's start from
Yes,
there.
I have. I have read one of your pieces. I have it here. The other one is inside. I wish it was here. So
Yes.
you wrote something in this one of this our country called War and Peace.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the stories that resonated with me. How it's just, yeah, how you spoke about like your grandfather and all of those things. Yeah, I felt like it was very close to home for you. So you were living your experience as a Nigerian and what it was like in that setting. And I felt like you were also, taking inspiration from people around you and you just poured that into very short pages and it was really, really beautiful. And I also have one of your books as well, Foreign God Inks. I wish it was
Oh,
here, but it's inside. It's
yes.
inside, not with the collection that I have in here at the moment. And why I bought that book was I bought a series of books right here. I got two books, Sanya and Shegidi, and also it was three, Sanya, Shegidi, and Lies of Ajungo. And I read those books and they were very they were not the usual setting of Nigerian books. They were talking about gods, deities, and war in a very beautiful setting. It was kind of like you were reading African magic epic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you know African magic epic, it's very, very olden days. We are going to war.
Yes.
How you would imagine Okonkwo and Namdi going to war to fight for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Yes.
making up all these names. So I went back to the bookstore, and this was me telling them I'm not going to come back here until 2024. I went back in, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you said you're not coming back here until 20." I was like, "Well, I'm here now." And I told her, "Okay, I want something like these books, the books that I picked up a few weeks earlier. Give me something, right? That just just give me something. And she said, okay, I think I have a couple. So she gave me about 3 books, and I ended up picking Yours Alone, Foreign God Inc.
Hmm.
One, because of the name, I was like, Foreign God Inc. Hmm, Foreign God Inc. And I flipped over, I read the plot. Oh, okay. A graduate, unemployed because of his Ibotic accent. I'm like, okay, now this is a hill. I will die on this hill. You see that whole accent thing of how, oh, you're Nigerian, you're African, your accent is XYZ, but you can, when a French person speaks, oh my God, your accent is so romantic. When a German speaks, oh my God, your accent commands so much authority. Well, I'm like, okay,
Yes.
I'm African. I have a Nigerian accent, and if you want me to get rid of this accent, probably I have to speak into a pounded a water, and you pound that. So, and I was like, okay, since this has something about like the accent, I'm going to pick it. And I was like, okay, so I just added it to like the collection of books that I'm going to read for 2024, and it's currently next on my list after I finish
Oh,
reading the book that I currently have on me right now. So I look forward to reading your book. I've
oh my,
watched a couple of interviews about the book,
yes.
so I'm very excited about the book.
Oh
I
my gosh.
believe
So I'm,
it's a book designed for me. As I've always said, there is no bad book. The book is just not made for you. So I believe this is a good book that is designed for my taste buds. So yeah.
well, I tell you something. You and I, in sort of speaking before we started this interview formally, I found something refreshing. I know that I've got into trouble quite a few times in the past because my favorite things to give people as gifts are books. And how many times have I heard in a book we go chop, you know? So to hear you say that books are your favorite gifts to give and your favorite gifts to receive was just so heartwarming. So let me ask you, how did you get to your love of reading? And how has that shaped, if anything, how has it shaped your political consciousness in any way? And if so, could you tell us how?
Well, my love for reading started when I was very young. I used to just pick up storybooks and I would read, right? And my mom would buy me books. I don't necessarily think she was doing it because she's like, oh, I want you to love reading. She just, bought me books because, yeah, I want her to have books. I want her to read. So whenever we used to go to my grandmother's house back then in Apapa, so we'll pass by this market called Boundary, right? So anytime we pass, and she's going to buy foodstuffs for my mom, and I remember they used to have this bookstore there. So she would stop by at the bookstore, buy me some school books, and then throw in 1 or 2 storybooks, right? So that is like my earliest memory of what a bookstore looks like. And not once did I, at least I know that when my mom and I go out, it was difficult for her to get me to stay put because
Hmm.
that's when my eyes are everywhere. I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that. But whenever I was in the bookstore, I had
Mhm.
like, yeah, if she says sit down here, best believe I'm going to sit down there because my eyes are just looking at that book. And she buys me this book, and in my head, I'm like, why didn't you buy me that book? That cover of that book looks more interesting. But at the end of the day, you know, I just love books. And in school too, I mean, I was one of those students that I process things differently. So I'm not usually the fastest, but I eventually get it right. So I have to always like go back to read it again, to understand it, use my own methods. So even till now, I still use that. And it's kind of like, oh, I'm having a debate with you, but it's kind of like, this is my own way of understanding it. So when people are saying 2 plus 2 is 4, I'm probably doing 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 to give me 4. I have to break it down to the barest minimum so I can process, so that just in case someone else wants me to explain, I have like the most simplified way of, explaining things, right? So that was just how like books came in for me. And, we would have like English textbooks and I would read all the short stories in the books. And I think funny enough, you would think, oh, because I like books, English was like my favorite subject, but English
Mhm.
wasn't. I remember
Mm.
in just one, I didn't do so well in English, and my English teacher called me and was like, "You see, you failed." I was like, how? And after that, I rebutted. And I think that was the last time that I failed English. But it wasn't even because, oh, English is like my favorite subject, so I have to read. But I think because I love to read, it just helped me. So, and I remember in class, it's like, oh, who's the person that should read this? And they'd be like, oh, give it to her. She likes to read. And it's not like if you ask me all those structures in English, I know it, but I just enjoyed the habit of reading and reading to people, right? So, just sit down, read to people. I read to my younger siblings. And I remember reading to my mom at that time. So, okay, come and sit down and read for me. And I would read for her. I would read. If you just, it's okay, give me a book, I will read for you. And that also was how I started the whole, it played a role in politics, right? Because for politics, for the longest time, I was not an active participant of politics. I was very passive about it. Even then in school when they're having like SUG elections, oh, these are the
SUG,
students,
Student Union
yeah,
Government,
these were the
right?
students being elected. And I just watch and I look, we'd have discussions. Oh, this person wants to run. They'd approach me. Oh, please vote for me. But even at that, I'm like, I'm not going to vote for you because I know you. What do you have to offer? What do you have to offer? I mean, what do you have to offer? What do you have to do? These are the things like, oh, I going back now, I noticed that, yeah, I was passive, but I definitely wasn't one of those ones that did not make it their business.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I remember like, oh, who won? Who's the success now? Who is this person now? Oh, okay. At least I
Mm-hmm.
know who and who is there. Who is the SUG? Who is the deputy? All of those things. So for me, it wasn't about politics, right? It was more about like a system that works. So for a system to work, you have to put the right people and it has to trickle down, right? And it's the most basic form of social studies, leadership and
Mm-hmm.
followership, right? So that's the only thing that is in my head. A good leader makes sure that the followers, are satisfied, happy. A good leader gives them what they want. A good leader listens. A good leader, you know, takes instructions. A good follower listens to their leader. A good follower knows when to criticize. A good follower knows when to um tell their other followers that okay, we are doing wrong. So it was very, very basic for me. I just had the most basic form of social studies in my head. What is a leader? What is a follower? Till now, that is still how I see politics. I still view politics through the eyes of that girl in GS2, GS3, GS1, listening to her social studies teacher. Because those are like the elementary part of it. I'm not the most, if you ask me to start analyzing all of these things for you, I probably
Mm-hmm.
might not be the best person, but I think I understand it to the most, the basic form. And that's like always, that's like the angle that I try to go to. I don't try to speak in a way that is too sophisticated or too elaborate or too big. I try to make sure that, okay, you understand what I'm saying. If you don't understand, I break it down to you. If you
Mm-hmm.
still don't understand, I try to look for someone that can speak it in your language because that's just how I see it. And again, going back to the books. So when the whole politics thing started, I was like, okay, how can I contribute? I've decided to get into this. Everybody's tweeting, everyone is sharing videos, and we're in the educational stage, the sensitization stage. What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to get my PVC. It's not like I did not have a PVC, right? But my PVC was damaged. And now thinking about it, that it wasn't damaged to the point that I couldn't use it again. But I was so particular about the coming election that I did not want a situation whereby they will say, oh, this your card is you can't use it when I'm going to vote. So I took my chances and I went to re-register again. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I like it was something that it wasn't thinking about it now. The card wasn't even that bad. But I remember talking to a friend of mine. I was like, I don't think my card is good enough. I don't want that situation. I don't. And then I wasn't even fully educated about the new electoral process and all of that. All I knew was I have a PVC. My PVC is damaged. That was my very first PVC. As soon as I turned 18, I went to get my PVC. And I was telling my friend that, look, I don't think this card can do it. Oh, I don't want problem. It will pain me. And my friend was like, okay, let's just go and register for a new one. And that was what I did. And I remember going there the first day, the same place that I went to get my PVC. I didn't meet them there. Apparently, they had moved locations not too far off, but I guess they were trying to just meet everyone in the middle. And I remember seeing somebody that was special. And I was like, this person came to get their PVC, but they can't see. So how is this person getting information? But this person can hear, right? That was like what caught my eye. And I was sitting at a distance from this person, but I noticed it. So I came back online that day and I was like, okay, I know some of you don't like to read. Reading is not your forte, but I like to read. So, and I want these informations to go far and wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read for you. Whatever information that is available, I will read it and put it out there. And without what I did, and I remember doing my first audio, there was this feature on iPhone for Twitter. Well, now it's known as X. And I just recorded and I was talking to my generation and I said, look, the people that we have in power, their biggest fear is seeing us come together, pushing aside our differences and just coming together at a united front. And they will do everything and anything to make sure that we are divided. So our best bet is putting aside our differences. You don't like me, good and fine. Okay, I don't like you too. The feeling is mutual, but we have a common interest, right? And that took off, right? And I remember a friend of mine that had more followers than me then, and he was like, I like this, you should keep doing it. I was like, well, I did not plan to stop. I don't know where I got that courage from. I don't necessarily think I'm the most courageous person, but I did that. I committed to it and I did that. I think it was just a situation of things. I think it was kind of like a do or die affair. So I did the first one, I did the second one. You know, when people were asking questions, oh, what is this? What is this? I'm like, okay, so this is what this means. This is my personal opinion, right? This is what I think this is. Feel free to agree to disagree in the comment section and all of that. I would read like articles automatically, like I was already a voiceover artist, right? And you know, people would then send me updates like, oh, this is where our polling unit is for this locality, and I would record that and I would send that, and some people would download it and send it over to WhatsApp, and that gave me so much joy and fulfillment. I don't do that anymore, but it's something that I plan on going back to because that was like my genesis. That was what built me. Not a lot of people know that. Just a few people who were there with me in the beginning, they're the ones who remember that story. I never used to make tweets. I don't have that time to. I would just probably just write down my thoughts and then read it out. And when I heavily disagree on something, I would use my voice to say it. And people started to, you know, key in on that. And from there, I started hosting spaces with a guy called Magnific Dude, a very wonderful person. He just sent me a message one day and he was like, oh, I'd like for you to host a space with me. Usually, I would run away from hosting spaces because it was kind of like the people hosting spaces, they are upstairs, and we, the ones on, you know, making tweets, we're downstairs. Like, oh, I don't like going upstairs. I just listen and I come out. And for some reason, already one or two people had approached me. And I think before Magnific Dude, I had a space with someone called Chigozie related to Imo State. And I think because I was already familiar with Chigozie of some sort, that was why I didn't necessarily say no. But with Magnific Dude, I didn't even know him from anywhere. Usually when people send me I wasn't familiar with this person at all. And I just said okay. And that was what started our relationship. And today we are very,
Wait,
very
quick question though. Were you ever on Clubhouse?
Never.
Oh, okay. All right. Just wanted to know.
So she and I are the same in that regard because I never made it into Clubhouse.
Posting spaces back to back every single day all throughout that political cycle. So I was always talking. always talking. Like, I was that girl that you will always find her talking. Once I'm done with space, I come down, I still make the audios. And from there, it was campaign season. We're trying to make ends meet. We didn't really have much. So everybody was putting their best foot forward. What could I put forward? My voice. And I was like, okay, you know what? I will do the jingles for all the state marches. And I would just record it and I would send it to them. It wasn't the most professional or clean audio, but you could tell the love, right? They didn't mind, and they will play it on the radio and everything. So I guess people were listening to my voices in other states, and I was here in Lagos. So like I knew, this one will come from Anambra. Like, our matches on Saturday. We don't have an audio for the radio. Can you do something from there? Okay, sure, no problem. You get it tomorrow morning. Oh, we have one for Plateau. You get it tomorrow morning. Like, I was just on a roll. So if I was not someone who likes to read, I don't necessarily think it would have been easy for me to dive into that aspect.
Wonderful.
Until today, I
Thank
still
you.
think, and that's why I'm a powerhouse with a powerful voice.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So to start with, I mean, your passion, it goes through most of what you do. People that have encountered you, even in interviews like CNN. I think you had an interview in CNN pretty much.
Yes, I
And
did.
they seem to have selected the right person, which is not in the modern CNN era. It's not common anymore. I've selected the right person this time around. But I mean, it would be good to know your background. You talked about a little bit of your mom giving you books, and books you would go back home and then fawn over that you didn't get, like you wish you got, more like hoping you get that next time. It kind of reminds me of
I like blue.
my
That book that was the blue cover looks more interesting than the one she got me.
it kind of reminds me also of me growing up, and my dad would, if you came top 3 in class, my dad would always take you to, then there was a Alabama market, so they had these movies. It used to be VHS. This was in the very late 80s, early 90s. So if I'm dating myself, it's cool. It's early 90s, and the rule for coming top 3 in class was to pick out the movie of your choice within bounds, meaning you couldn't go pick out some very nasty movie or something. so it was kind of like that for me. But it would be good to know your background, things that you find important in terms of maybe your parents, how that plays into your current this time, your future trajectory.
Yeah, so my background, my parents are very interesting people. They're like they're the love of my lives, right?
Oh.
And sometimes I act like I don't send, but in reality, deep down, I really do. And I think I get a lot from both of them. Sometimes I'm like, okay, who do I get my dark humor from? Is it my mom or is it my dad? And I think I kind of made peace with the fact that it's my dad, and that annoys the hell out of me because anytime my dad is going about with this is dark humor, I'm always like, I don't think he realizes that it's very annoying. But I'm exactly like that. So my parents they are very chill people, strict, disciplined, good cop, bad cop. My mom is obviously the bad cop, but she's still very chill. My dad, on the other hand, was a very, very laid back person. Like my dad can be overly laid back. And I think I get that from him too. Like overly laid back to the point that it's almost like he's not bothered about anything or everything. Like he's very go with the wave type of person. And my mom, on the other hand, she's very, we need to do this thing now. There's something we say in Ishekiri, Omi Kata. It's just saying that enjoyment doesn't end. So that thing that you're doing that you think is fun, it's still going to continue. Come outside and swim. Leave that thing alone. So, and they were my mom, right? Because my dad was always traveling. My mom was always in a very, I've always known my mom to be a leader. She is still part of this club for a shekiri. And I don't think there's ever a time my mom did not hold a position. And apparently, my grandfather, her dad, rest in peace. He was also a member. So I don't know when. I think it was after he died. She joined and she took his position. I think she was actually the youngest, if I'm correct. So then we'd go for meetings together, and she was always sitting on the high table. I don't remember my mom sitting on the floor. She was always at the high table. And that was really cool for me. And because, I'm her daughter, I was the only child that they brought to the meeting. So I also sat at the high table too.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I was sitting there with powerful men and women, and they adored me. It's like, oh, okay. Do you know what this is? This is what this thing means. This is what we're saying. And, they would carry me on their laps and all of that. So I believe, like, I get that sort of that thing of being a leader from my mother, and I get simplicity from my father, to just be able to just be very, very laid back and take everything, sometimes know when to react, know when to not react. I get that a lot from my dad. Sometimes I can be overly, like, so passive to the point that you think I don't care, but I just have a very different way of showing it. And I think another trait that I picked up from my mom would be, which is something she feels is a problem, is I don't know how to keep shots. You've not finished talking. I've said like 10. And I think at some point it kind of messed with my esteem, because I was like, oh, you're a talkative, you talk too much, you talk too much, you talk too much, you talk too much. Because I felt like I spoke a lot. And then they'd say, oh, when you talk a lot, you're not making any sense. So I felt at some point in my life I wasn't making any sense. And that kind of, it drew me back. It really did. I think there was a point where my mom was like, you don't necessarily talk as much as you do. You're kind of like isolating. And I still saw that, oh, I'm growing up. But now that I looking at it now, I can kind of see why she was worried. And for my dad was like, maybe she's just doing what she wants to do. Why is it such a big deal? Right? I think my dad is where I learned how to listen from him, because I don't think there was ever a time where I felt like, oh, I want to explain myself. And my mom would say, like, every time you want to explain, every time you always want to be correct. But my dad, on the other hand, is like, okay, talk. So I would go on. I was like, this is that, and he's like, is that, oh yeah, sorry, no vex. It's okay. And my mom on the other hand, she's like, can't you just say, oh, my mom is like, just say sorry. At what point are you trying to prove? Right? So I get like the mix from both of them. Now that I'm growing up and I'm in a position where, I have to make certain decisions, and I make certain decisions, and I'm like, okay, I kind of see where I get this traits from. Right? I mean, my mom was a nurse, so she had that love to just help people. She was always helping. She was the community nurse. She was the neighborhood nurse. Oh, auntie nurse, this person don't want to carry your first aid box. And she's like, oh yeah, carry your, oh yeah, let's go. And I would always go with her.
Wow.
So it's like, oh, auntie nurse and deputy nurse. So that was from my mother. I learned how to be kind. Both my parents are very kind people. Sometimes I feel like, especially my dad, like he's doing too much. Don't you think this is a bit too much? But I believe that's the same thing for my siblings and I. We learned how to show kindness. And my mom is always like, oh, even if they hurt you, just be kind. Go back and do it. And even till now, even sometimes when my mom is like, mommy, I'm not doing it again, she always goes back. I'm like, I thought you said you were not going again. What are you still doing this? Like, I don't have a choice now. So I learned that selflessness to give, because especially for my mom, I watched her give herself a lot more than I felt like she should have. And she's like, look, they will take advantage of you. It will hurt. It will pain you. You will cry. Right? But it is what it is. And it's funny because when all of these things started to happen, I wasn't necessarily even relating with her. But she wanted me to relate with her. Tell her that, okay, see, and probably if I had even related with her when all certain things were happening in my life, I would know how to navigate better. And she's like, look, you can't, no matter how strong you think you are, you cannot do life on your own. So one thing that I see myself as is someone who is still going through life. I'm still learning. I'm a very submissive student of life. Every aspect of my life, everything that I've been through, I feel like that's just life doing its thing. And maybe 5, 10 years from now, I will look back at it and maybe it doesn't make sense now, but 10 years from now, it would make sense. So my parents definitely played that huge role in molding me without me even realizing. And I guess to them too, they were just doing what parents would do. So when the whole leadership thing started, my mom particularly, I don't think she was surprised, right? At some point, I think it also made her realize that, yeah, she's an adult now. She's not that baby anymore. So when she saw me take, she wasn't necessarily fazed that, oh, your daughter is going against the world. Some parents would be like, oh, I don't want you to. Not once did she tell me to not. She said, her only was like, oh, just be careful. But not once did she discourage me. She would be worried, like, oh, where are you? You're out campaigning, you're fine. But I think it made her proud, like, to see that she's standing for something and she's going all out for it. I don't think I've ever, poured my heart and soul to something. And also for my dad too. And my dad was like, oh, people saw your interview. And I was like, yeah, that's my daughter. Yeah. I was like, I beg you. And my dad would literally joke and he's like, do you know that interview? I even called them. I told them that nobody should stress this girl for me. He would make jokes like that. And I'm like, how is this even funny? But yeah, they definitely did. They did all that for me. Humanity,
Wonderful.
I learned from home and family.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it is interesting that the way you hold your family and all these things that have you hold dear. It's very interesting, especially when you talk about your dad not interjecting in terms of you're taking a path that there might be might bring certain repercussions, which I think it's life. It's
My
more
dad
of a
has never for once been that, oh, you didn't come first in class, I will beat you. It's like, and I was always I was one of like my top 5. You would find me there in junior secondary school. I was top 5. Senior secondary school, I became a bit more competitive. I never went below top 10. So for my dad, it wasn't about, oh, you have to come first in class. He never equated intelligence with you must come home with first. It's like, you know what you're doing, right? You know the subjects, you are passing. So being first, second, third doesn't equate that you are very intelligent. Even my dad would tell you that the people that are failing is F9 meant for goods. They are meant for human beings now. So you're meant for human beings. So even if you have F9, it's not meant for goods. You come back. So he has never really been that parent that's like, oh, you must be this. I think all my dad wants is just for you to find yourself, find your path, and be happy.
So what? So you feel that has played a role for you? It's very interesting to hear that. I know a lot of people who, growing up, I felt they were kind of like that, and this elections kind of crystallized a different view of them for me. It's very interesting because when I see like that, there were people who maybe similar to you. I would have thought they were kind of rational beings, case to case, or at least at the most part. But this election just should be like, oh no, these are tribal warriors or just whatever they are. And funny enough, even though they are more of, I would say they are more of maybe you'd say, largely, primarily because Tinubu is Yoruba and he himself is one that used local and all that stuff. There were a lot of them that were Yorubas, not, the majority of them were, but you'd have a lot of people who I know who were Bini people who are maybe Bielsa, who are like a few Shakiri people. I can call one person, but I rather refrain from calling that person's name. That person is. I know for a fact that person is paid. I don't even want to go into it. How I know, just personal relationships of some of these people I've grown up with who are being the pain. Let's put it that way. I don't want to get too much into, but I know a lot of people are getting paid, and I've known that for a while. But it's very interesting in terms of how that might play for you into when you have to come across. Because for me, even last year, for instance, using myself as an example, I came back from London. If I understand last year actually, and I saw certain things in London I didn't want to talk about because it's more of, again, the same thing, personal relationships with people who, even though I know they will be on a certain side of the spectrum, I didn't expect them to be going to the next level. Like, Okey will say, Okey's quote is that, Buhari is like, Tinubu looked at Buhari and it's like, oh, you think you're bad? Oh, I just chill. I'll show you what's coming. This man thinks he's better than me, right? So, so it's very interesting how you navigate the despair, the possible, let me not even say despair. It's not necessary. I mean, I don't even think it's despair in my opinion, but the possible despair, the possible vitriol that'll be thrown at you. Do you lean on your parents? What's that relationship like? Do you lean on your old classmates? What's that like? How do you go about that? How do you, because we're all human beings, I would assume. If you're not, let me know. We'll be fine. We'll be fine with that. I assume you are. So.
I would say that I'm an alien. That I'm a very annoying alien. In all honesty, I did not see that one coming. I mean, I don't think I saw it coming. I was told, I sensed it, but I wanted to play oblivious about it. Prior to the election, I wasn't really active online. Like, I believe it was after I graduated from school, I took a break. I think during the pandemic in 2022, because I finished. Yeah, I was part of the people the pandemic affected. So,
Oh, by the way, you never mentioned. If you want to, you never mentioned your school discipline. If you wanted to,
I'll get to that.
Okay, cool.
So,
All right.
so really no secret. So I it was during the pandemic. I think maybe because we're all idle during the pandemic, so we're having very silly conversations. I think that was the first time I experienced some level of bigotry. So I left, right? And people were dying. It was really bad. So I don't necessarily think it was the bad news of COVID that made me leave. It was also the whole, this tribe is this, that tribe is. I'm like, yo, no, this is not me. So I pulled back. Then I came back during NSAS. Right. When I heard about it, I was like, oh my God, I have to find my logins and I have to come back. So that was like my earliest form. And even at that, I just felt like, oh, those were just a couple of people just throwing bands. They still love each other. They are not that petty. But during the election, when the election started, see, if you call me Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Efik, Middle Belt, I'm like, yeah, it's still Nigerian at the end of the day. I'll let you know that, okay, yeah, I'm in Shakiri, but I don't mind. After all, I'm Nigerian. And I grew up in a community that was mixed. I grew up in Surulere. My landlord and landlady, they were Yoruba. I had Igbo neighbors. I had Kalabari neighbors. I had a storekeeper named Mohammed. Mohammed, do you know how many sweets I took on credit that I've never paid for? like, I remember my birthdays. Mohammed would bring carton of biscuits and sweets for me. All of these things. So I didn't grow up in a community that pointed fingers. I say it all the time that I'm literally a community baby. I don't know if that was what it was like for other children, but not once did I feel hated because I come from a certain tribe, right? Everybody loves me. Everybody, okay, they might not love me, but they cared for me, right? So it broke my heart seeing that. And I remember one time I was hosting a space and I broke down and I started crying and I said, look, this election cycle stole my innocence because not once did I see all of these things. Not once did like I had to start to second guess myself. And that brought a lot of second guessing. And when you make a tweet and you're like, oh, I hope this tweet is not, I mean no harm with this, and I hope nobody's going to take offense with this. And there are few people that I know in my personal life that exhibited that. And that scared me because I'm like, we've eaten together, we've read together, we've gone to classes together. And I had to do away with them. And usually I would tell people that relationships just don't die like that, especially if you have a very good relationship with this person. You can have a falling out, but you will definitely come back. It might not be close, but you can be cordial. But I was like, I don't want to be around these people anymore because I never thought that I would see this side of them, right? And I remember one time I made these tweets, right? And I was like, you're telling me to leave Lagos because I'm not a Yoruba girl. But if we're all going to leave this Lagos, I, a Delta woman, will leave you from Ibadan. You will also leave because you're not an indigenous of Lagos. I said that. And, a lot of people had my back. A lot of Yoruba people had my back. And they're like, yeah, that moment, I felt like, yeah, there was still some level of sanity, right? But I still saw a level of, even down to my tribe being Shakiri, they're like, well, you guys can be excused because, no, some people are bigots. But I still saw a lot, they're like, oh, you can be excused because our languages are similar, so we won't do anything to you. I'm like, no, don't say because we are cousins of some sort, you can. No, if you do an injustice, it is an injustice. And in still that moment, I still had people who had my back. And they're like, yeah, what you just said, right, is wrong. So it also made me see that it's not one size fits all. It will hurt. It will it will it will tear you apart, destroy your innocence, make you see things that you never want to see. But at the end of the day, there are still people who all they have in their heart is love. And that is what keeps me going. These are people
Wonderful.
that no matter what, they will never let bigotry come in the way. Right?
Thank you. Yeah.
So
So thank you
that's
very
what
much.
keeps me going.
That's actually, I love when things seem to be bleak, for one to see a glimmer of hope. And so that's, just that phrase, that there are people who project love even in the midst of the hate and the darkness. So it's virtually a year ago now that Nigeria was going through the 2023 presidential and national assembly elections. You were in some way a very significant figure in the run-up to those elections. Can you give me a sense of your direct experience of that day, the day of the election? Can you describe what you saw, the mood, the atmosphere, the feelings that you had on February 25?
Wow. I did not sleep a night before. We were still having lectures. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. It was the longest night of my life. I think I slept like past 1. At 4 o'clock, I was already awake. I went there with a school bag. I had everything in my school bag. And, a day before I had gone to scout the area, like, as a matter of fact, I went to my polling unit. I was the first person to get there, and I didn't see anybody there. And, then this man comes in and he was like, "Are you sure this is," because it was a school, he was like, "That this is the secondary. Are you sure it's not the primary?" Because I was like, "Oh, INEC is going to come by 8 o'clock. This is 8 o'clock. INEC is not here yet." So I was like, "Okay, let's just walk around. Maybe they're in the primary school." And, so we walk around and then we come back and, I sit down inside the school. No, before I started walking around, before the man came, I was inside the school and I called my friend and I was like, "Hey, nobody's here." I don't think she noticed, but I was close to tears. So I was like, this is a very emotional day. And after I hung up the call, I cried. I was like, "God," I said a small prayer. I said, "God, into your hands I commit myself. I don't know what the day is going to be like. Please just take care of me." Right. Before the man came and I walked around. And then the election started. I vote. My sister's polling unit was just like, remember I said I had to get a new PVC. So my sister and I were actually in the same polling unit. So when I re-registered, they pulled me out of her polling unit. So kind of like some of us, her polling unit was, I think it was very congested. So they pulled some of us out. So my polling unit the school was behind her own school. Right. And I didn't even know. So when I was going to look for her, I had to take another long turn. So I saw her with my electrician. I was like, and the guy was like, "You don't know road though. See that gate? If you follow that gate, you're at your polling unit." I was like, "Oh, really?"
By the way, which part of I assume this is Lagos, but which part of Lagos was this in?
So I'm not going to say that.
That was it. Okay, cool. Which ones? I mean, it was it's good to put this thing. Yeah.
I'm going to give you the gist. So I meet
All right.
my sister. So my sister was there. So my sister came with my auntie, right? And my electrician. I think they met my electrician there. So the three of them, they were there, right? So my mom comes in later, right? My mom comes in later. My younger siblings are at home. So when I saw my mom, I was like, so I was thinking she would come with my younger siblings. She's like, I beg, let them stay at home. They'll be fine. If they want to destroy each other, let them do that. We'll take care of their matter the following day. So my mom was with me. My auntie was shuffling back and forth. So we voted. It was okay at my polling unit. Some guys were just moving around. You could tell that they were very funny looking guys. But I think maybe because my polling unit was so small, right? They really didn't want to do it. I don't think they actually realized on time that that was a polling unit. So they realized until we were done and they had counted. So I go back to my sister's polling. So I was also like going back and forth after I was done voting and I had observed. So since my mom was here, if anything were to happen, she would call me. So it's like, okay, my sister's polling unit is just like 10 blocks away. So I take the shortcut and I walk in. I haven't even seen my sister, right? The last time I saw her was before the voting was going to start. So I walk in and some guys come in and they're like, "Emma Lole, I just stood. I was like, "This is why you are speaking to yourself." It's like, "Emma, like, you people are not hearing word now. Go home." And before I knew it, this guy throws a bottle and this bottle is coming at me and I duck. I just remember me ducking and everybody was running. So I stood up and people were running to the gate, the back gate that I came in from, right? And they were running to the fence. Apparently, they were like, I guess the school was having a bit of a construction, changing chairs until they pick up those chairs and tables and they chase the thugs. So in that moment, I was trying to look for my sister, right? So obviously everywhere is chaotic. I can't find my sister. So I take the front gate and I run outside and I see that they caught one of the thugs. I stop, I look, but I still go further because I'm like, okay, maybe I'll see my sister on the expressway. And I see that he had chased some of the thugs far and guys were already mounting that side. They were like, "Oh, if you're born, I will come back." Right. So, and I can't find my sister. There's a guy, there's one of the dogs here that is bleeding. You know, they caught him and they dealt with him. It's like, I hope my sister's fine. And I'm nervous again. And I call a friend of
When you
mine.
say dealt with him, what does that mean, though?
Oh, they
They
beat him
gave him
up.
cookies or biscuits
No,
or
they beat him up.
tea?
People really took it.
Who
They
are,
took it.
who are these people that beat him up, though?
People that came to vote. I'm not going
Okay.
to pretend. They're like,
Sure.
you threw bottles at us. You
Hmm.
thought we were going to run. So I guess when they saw, obviously, these were like over 100, 200 people. Yeah,
Oh.
they are defending themselves, and you guys come with like 2 cars. How many of you can fit into those cars? You are outnumbered. So when they saw those guys picking up arms to protect themselves, they run with the car. But I guess that guy was not fast enough to get into the car.
To get to the car.
So he wasn't fast enough to get into the car, and that was how they were. And more so, he wasn't.
And this primarily is because, just to reiterate, this is primarily because, from what you're saying, which seems to be very accurate, is that they didn't even anticipate that there was going to be voting at that location. So this is like a horrid operation, and then they come in.
My sister's polling unit was an obvious polling unit. So that was their target. They knew that block vote was going to come from there. Apparently, after that, there was also like the major streets after that. They had already gone there to disrupt, and they were successful. So they were coming into, because my sister's polling unit was a government school. So obviously, that is like the place where you will find the majority. Mine was at the back, another private school at the back, right? So my polling unit was set up in front of the private school, the secondary of that private school. So I guess they didn't necessarily take note of us. So their target was my sister's polling unit because it's the biggest one. It's like the second biggest one in that locality, right?
So they were successful at your sister's own polling unit. And then they now realize, like, oh, let's get some banners and then come to yours. Your own polling unit is right. I was right at the back of your sister's own. And that's where they ended up meeting too much.
Before I went to my sister, I noticed them, right? They actually just drove past and they were walking. But I think maybe because we're done, so we just sat down scattered, and the INEC officials, they just sat down there. So they're just like, I guess their main target was that place, right? So I guess, they took, like, maybe they just like, I don't know, maybe it was just like, they just felt, oh, these ones are inconsequential. This place is not, maybe they were not sent to that place. So they decided not to do anything. So obviously my sister's polling unit is big. Like, there were new polling units. And after the election, I found out that the 3 small polling units around, they came from my sister's polling unit. And that used to be my polling unit too. So if I had not gone to fix my PVC, my sister and I would be together. So I called my friend, and my friend was in charge of security. My friend is in the security agency. So I knew that he would be vigilant in his place as well. And if something were to happen, he would tell me what to do. I called him and was like, I can't find my sister. I can't find my sister. They just attacked us. I can't find my sister. And I was literally in tears. Meanwhile, my mom was at the back. She didn't know what was, my mom and my auntie, they were at the back. They didn't know what was happening. So he was like, calm down. He was like, calm down, don't cry, don't cry, calm down. Because it's like, if something were to happen, like, everyone is like, now after they caught the dog, the police came, and the police and the army, they came, right, and they took the guy away. So people were coming back in to vote. So I just stood, I was like, then I saw my sister, and I saw her. I was like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you fine? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. She was already back on the line. She was like number 4 on the line. I guess she was already like, so when they were arranging themselves, like, I just turned and I see her and our eyes lock. And I was like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, okay, I'm fine. She was like, oh, the electrician is here with her. So I saw he was like, no worries. Like, I deal with them. No worry. So I ran back and I went to meet my mom. That, you don't know what happened. They just attacked this person's polling station. I was like, they attacked G's polling station polling unit. Mom was like, mom was like, shh, your voice. It's like, mommy, they attacked this. She's like, I was like, oh, the voters, they put up the thugs, the soldier came, and then she's like, is your sister fine? I said, yeah. And obviously I could see the shock in her face, right? But she just wanted to collect herself. It's like, she has 2 children out here, right? And What if that bottle that hit my head and I fall and I collapse? What if something that happened to my sister and she's here watching she's watching our votes because she's like, okay, and she wouldn't know, right? Because the funny thing was when those guys were running to the back, they weren't running outside. So if they had run outside, we at the other side we would have known something was happening. So they
Yes.
went to get defense, right? So that was a very scary, I came back to my mom and my mom was like, okay, just wait, right? So after like 10 minutes, my sister calls and says, okay, she's she has voted, she's out of the line now, she's just at one corner, she's sitting down. And after a while, she's going to go back home, right? That they haven't started counting, but she was attacked, right? So she's definitely going to go back home. So my auntie was like, okay, she's going to meet her and they will go home together. So I stayed back. My mom and I stayed back at my polling unit. We count our vote. Obviously, my candidate won. We were happy, we were cheerful. As a matter of fact, I remember a guy saying that, look, win or lose, we are all one here. And that was what we exhibited in our polling units. So, like, we didn't, it wasn't bad blood in our polling unit. This man was like, he came before 2 weeks after the go and he was like, win or lose, we are all one here. Whoever we
So who was this person? Is it an INEC official
No,
or?
he was a voter as well, right? So our polling unit was my polling unit, right? It was really peaceful. So while after that attack, I guess some of the neighborhood like let me just call them heads, and like some of them came, about four of them came, and they were like, "Who were those guys that attacked? Where did they come from?" Like, and now they are saying that they are from us, right? So the man came, he came to our polling unit and he was like asking other people, did anything happen here? And the guy said, no, nothing happened here, that it was that or that side. So those men now had to start like walking around. And you could tell that one of them, the man was annoyed because it was kind of like, oh, maybe they were thinking that he sent them because, he was from the opposition and everything. It was like, he wants to know the person that sent those talks because I guess he was trying to clear his name because maybe people were kind of looking at him suspiciously because he's from the opposition and everything. So he was trying to get to the bottom of it. But obviously that was of no.
So when you say he was from the opposition, do you mean the APC?
Yeah, he was from the APC. So he was like, oh, he was like, he doesn't know those guys, right? He doesn't know who sent them, right? And he was like, another attack happened at the other place, right? So I overheard him, he was counting, was like, oh, this one happened there, this one happened there. Like, who are those boys, right? Like, he wants to know their names. Because I guess perhaps they were thinking that he was the one, right? So you could tell in his face that he was trying to like at least figure out the person that sent, the person that sent them, or he was at least trying to like maybe he knew, but he just did not want to assume because it sounded like he was looking like the guy that people were thinking he'd be the one. And mind you, I've never seen this person in my life. But at that point, it's like, okay, they've counted our votes, we've won. To upload on the IRF was a problem. But like, why can't this thing go up to the IRF? We had to stay 1 hour back. Another problem. And some guys were like, okay, you know what? The ladies go home. We're going to follow our polling unit agent to the World Collation Center. So this guy was like, oh, mommy, me and your daughter they go house. No worry, right? So I was also keeping tabs, right? Then I went to my sister's polling unit. She had already gone home with my auntie, right? She'd gone home with my auntie. I wait, they count hers because that was not necessarily my polling unit. So I did not have any form of command there. They won massively. So going back,
when you say the one, you mean
Labour
the
Party
Labour
won.
Party?
Yes, Labour Party won. Then going into my street, there was another small polling unit there. Labour Party won as well. Right? And as a matter of fact, there was a polling unit close to my house, and my mom was like, how do you mean you would have deployed here? I said, I did not know, right? So, we get home, and I see my sister. It's like, oh, are you okay? And all of that. She's like, yeah, she's fine. She just like her body hurts from all the pushing and all of that. And it was another long night. What is happening? You come online. Then because also I was outside voting, I was also keeping tabs online. Now, like, okay, I'm home now. I can face online people and I see a lot of DMs, messages. This is what is going on. Suspects, SOS, SOS, SOS. Mind you, my friends in the diaspora, they were holding spaces like in case any information comes in, you can dial in on the space. We had our own mini situation rooms, people that, like our own set circle. We had our own mini situation rooms, giving updates. Take a picture of your polling unit result sheet, send it, have copies and all of that. So it was a long night. We didn't sleep. We were still waiting for information to come in, right? Still getting updates. This is hers. We can't find this person. This is what this person did. This is the person that is doing this. Get us the name. All of that. So much was going on. I didn't eat that night. Like, I think it was the following morning. I come to my sister's bed and I jump on her, and that's actually when I realized that she has a cut on her leg. I was like, shh. She's like, ow. I was like, what happened? She's like, my leg. I was like, that's when I see the cut on her leg. And that broke my heart. That broke my heart so much because, like, we came out here to vote. There was no need for this, right? There was really no need for this. And, and I went back to that man. The man was like, now they are thinking, man was like, yes, so he's an APC man, oh, but please, he did not sponsor these thugs. So I guess the man is known in that neighborhood, but I personally do not know him, right? So I guess that's why he was trying to. But then again, there are a lot of big boys in the area. It could have been done by anyone. And those guys were saying it there,
So,
right?
so
And
let me confirm, the cut on your sister's leg, was it inflicted by one of the thugs, or was it when she was running that she injured herself?
so I asked her, I was like, because I didn't see you, right, when that whole thing happened. I just ducked, and when I carried my head up, people were just, and she was like, where would I have run to? I just was like, I just pulled myself and I stood. She was like, if I run, fall. So she was like, I guess my sister is just one of those people that they know how to handle when it comes to panic. So they are not like everybody's running, so they run. So like she just froze where she was,
Mhm.
right? So I was like, where did you stand? She was like, that place that you were standing when you saw me, I was just across, right?
Wow.
So, and I was like, this your scar, is it a bottle and everything? She was like, mommy, if I don't know. She was like, me, I don't know
Mm,
whether it was somebody that stepped on me. But she was like, she was standing. She was like,
mm,
she doesn't know whether it was a bottle that landed and caught her. She was like, I don't know. But the bottom
yeah.
line is, my leg is sharpening me. And I
Mm,
want to take Panadol. We're still trying to just make small jokes about it. It was later on we kind of heard who sent those guys. And it was just really sad. It was just a very sad experience overall. So that was how that day was. I
mm,
woke up in high spirits and I went to bed with a lot of I went to bed with that is if I could even sleep. I just remember lying down on my bed and just drinking water. I was just
mm,
taking a lot of water that night. And I went to bed, was like, what is happening? That feeling of, it was more of a feeling. You wake up the following
mm.
morning, it's still the same thing. You hear that in some places that they couldn't even vote, election was not held, so they have to come back the following day. It was a very long 3 days until, you know, the result was announced. And what's funny was the night the result was announced, I stepped out of my house and I went to
Mhm.
see a teacher of mine. I like to call him my teacher. One of the so many people that have influenced my life, and we were talking, and he told me something. He was like, "You always have to be ahead of your
Mhm.
enemies, and you cannot afford to be clever by half."
Mm.
And he said, "Whatever happens, two things: you'll be angry and you'll be tired. Don't act on those two. because that's a very bad combination. And I never forget that word. If there's one thing that makes me rethink, I'm like, I'm angry and I'm exhausted. Whatever decision I will make right now is probably not going to be the best decision. So the only time you can make a very good decision is when you're well rested. When you're well rested, and you can think with a cool, calm, and collected head. And I did not necessarily understand that saying until months later. Because I remember in those 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, I was on a roll. I was a walking volcano. You could not touch me and not feel heat, right? Like, as a matter of fact, I left Magnific Dude to hold spaces, and he was like, "You have to come upstairs in a while." Like, because if I come upstairs, then the things that will come out from my mouth, and it's a recorded. So let me just stay here on the timeline and be tweeting. So in case I read it again and I feel like I've gone too far, I can delete it. But if I come there, oh my God, things that I will say, no. They are not healthy things, because I'm usually the very laid back, soft spoken one. And then when I go overboard, I go overboard. Right.
Yeah.
So that was
Thank
what
you.
that period was like for me.
Emeka.
Yeah. So that, I mean, it's a very interesting picture. It's a very important picture too, because it's good to see from your perspective how things panned out. Even though it's good to know. It would have been good to know, but for understandable reasons, the exact location it wasn't, because some of the locations there was no voting, and it was a lot worse as well during the governorship, which you talked about in
Oh
terms
my
of
God.
somebody coming back.
The governorship was, they came prepared. So because of the presidential, their faces was not, they didn't cover their face. So when it came back for the governorship, right, they didn't even want, remember now, I know that there's a shortcut from my sister's polling unit to mine. So I wanted to take my sister's polling unit. They blocked the entrance of my sister's polling unit. So people couldn't even go into the polling units.
So that polling unit was rendered
Right.
inactive.
So that polling unit has the main entrance, a side entrance, and the back entrance.
And they blocked all three of them.
So I stood, I was like, oh, they won't let me go in. I can't cross. Because I'm like, if I cross, I'm already at my polling unit. I'm already here. And these guys, they come in and they cover their faces. They're like, go to your village. Lagos is not for you. This, that. And one guy was making a video, and the police wanted to collect his phone. And people came and was like, why would you want to collect his phone? Why would you want to collect his phone? For what? For what reason? Don't. So people, then you could tell that the police, when at that time, they were not for us. They were really not for us at that time. Right? So I just stand there, and one of the thugs, right, was just like, go now, just go now. So that was what that guy said, because he was close to me, so I heard, right? Because this is like my street, so I'm standing here, and just across me, I have to just cross over, and I walk into my sister's polling unit, and then at the back is mine. So these guys, they have their face covered, and they're walking into my street because they are like smaller polling units in there. So I'm guessing that they are going to disrupt. And they were like, "Shebi last week, na beat us. Where we see how I want take votes now." So I'm like, okay, no problem. So I take the long cut, the same route that I followed when I was going to vote. I take that, and I go to vote. I still see some people from the presidential there. We vote. My mom comes because, I leave the house before my mom, right? And my mom comes. My mom wasn't able to vote because she couldn't get her PVC. She had to do a transfer. And unfortunately, she really couldn't get it. It was a very stressful period for her. So all that period where she was, at the polling unit, she would just come to check up on me. She would just, she would sit down and observe with, some women that should just sit down in their shop, because obviously there's a closed range. You can't be at a certain range, right? So she'd sit at like a certain range, but close enough to see me, right? So she comes, she sits down at that same shop, right? And she's obviously watching me. And I didn't even know she was going to come, right? Because when I was done voting, I do my 360, I go back to my sister's polling unit, and I come back and I see her. Like, I thought you were going to come outside today. She's like, what am I doing inside? Right? It's like, everybody's done voting, then we count our vote, and I see that same man, oh, we are one here, buys water for everybody, and all of them was like, no matter what happens. And one guy comes like, who win? And the guy was like, now everybody win for this place. And before my mom came, when I was moving around, right, you could tell that there was a bit of voters apathy because of what happened. And my friend calls me from Abuja, and I'm like, it's not the same. The feeling is not the same. Like, I was like, I kind of feel like I'm alone. During the presidential, there was this energy, but I kind of feel like like I'm alone. And she's like, just go home. And when I was in my sister's polling unit during the go back, they were shooting. They were shooting guns, right? So when I was walking back home with my mom, we saw the building that they shot, right?
Wow.
And we could see that the windows were shattered.
Hmm.
And I know that at least that's if they've moved. I know that that particular room on that street, that room belongs to a child. At least after 4 or 5 years ago, that particular apartment, there are kids there, and that particular room belongs to a child. But the first thing that comes to my head is, I hope, mind you, this is the street that leads to my street, so you have to finish the street, and so I'm not necessarily conversant with everybody. It's a big street, it's a very long street, and it's kind of like at the entrance. And I'm like, the last time I checked, so, and the reason I know this is because I know someone that used to tutor in that compound, right? So I'm like, I just hope nothing has happened. I just hope so. That was like my fear. Like, I just hope nothing has happened. And then we go back home. We do the whole long waiting, and what was declared was what was declared. And it makes you wonder if everything you fought for was even worth it. But yeah, it was and it is worth it. I will do it again and again and again,
Wow.
because as far as I'm
Thank you.
concerned, what happened was a robbery. So the problem was not me. The problem was the system just against me. We know what we did. We know how we worked. We know the sensitization. Like, sometimes, right, you don't even realize how much work you've done until you really sit down and you start to have all these conversations. Then you remember that, oh, I actually organized a medical outreach. I actually was part of the people that shared material. I did this. I did that. Oh, I was teaching people how to say mama papa pikin in different languages. I told people that comment mama papa pikin in your language. Oh, then you start to think of other people from the US, UK, in diaspora, how they helped the people in here. And then you realize that you actually have it better than some people. Reason being that, yeah, you went to vote, you experienced brutality, but you're not in the hospital. You don't have a leg broken. You're not dead. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to play, oh, my situation is better than me, so than the other person. So what happened was not a big deal. But then you realize that for you, it could have been worse. So why are you whining? If the person that had it worse is still out there fighting, so why are you complaining? I
Yeah,
remember that.
but as you're talking about that, just something I wanted you to clarify. I guess in the light of the season as well, how much support you had from the diaspora is not audit question, but since a lot of people have made noise about it, I think unfairly, in my opinion. I think it's very unfair. I think the Peter Obi campaign has been transparent. As a campaign in itself has been transparent. So, people talked about the campaign itself and people talked about the other people that picked up money, but how much support you've had from that and how much support Well, the next thing I was going to ask is in terms of how you see things moving forward, and the support you've also had moving forward as well. But yeah.
Then I'm a newbie to this, right? And I was learning, and I am still learning as I go. When I came into this, an absolute newbie. The only thing I knew was the social studies in my head. Good
Hmm.
leadership, good followership. We have to get it right. Something is, you know, and there are a lot of things that made me choose Peter Obi. There are a lot of things that made me, choose to get active. Mind you, before one of the major reasons was this massacre that happened, the Owo massacre. That's when I was like, look, I can't afford to be quiet, right? I can't do the whole when election comes, I'll go and vote. Just stay online. What did I used to do back then online? Which music is this music is trending now? How are we going to stream this song? You cannot tell me
Hmm.
anything. This song is the best. That was literally. I mean, every now and then I would make one or two social commentary about my social commentary skills. Then wasn't really heavy on politics, right? It was more about like just the creative industry, music in particular, right? But when that massacre happened, I was like, no, how many of us can actually get out of this country? Okay, if I say I make it, what about my cousins? What about my mom? What about my dad? What about my grandmother? What about my uncle? What about that one? What about this one? How are we going to bundle ourselves and get out? And if all of us leaves, then who is going to stay and fix it? So that was actually a very pivotal moment where I said, okay, I can't afford to stay mute. And prior to then, I had already started asking one or two questions that were not even kind of related to politics, right? I mean, they were related to politics, but it was more social related, right? And one of the questions that I asked was when that person introduced PO to me, was like, oh, that's why we want PO to come. I was like, let's see. And when I saw that people were bullying obedience, right, for having a choice and not going against the usual APC PDP. Mind you, PO had said he was I think yeah, people were like, give us Peter Obi, give us Peter Obi, and PDP denied. And they were still like, we are still going to get this Peter Obi of a man. I was like, let them. As at that time, I was like, it doesn't always have to be APC or PDP. We have Kingsley Mohalo, we have Peter Obi, we have this one other. I'm like, why are you bullying these smaller people? Why? I mean, come on, come on. Like we're so used to the norm. Even
Hmm.
when I clocked 18, my first time to vote, I didn't even vote the APC PDP, right? I didn't vote APC PDP because I was like, I'm sick and tired of you people, right? So I was like, okay, the fact that you're even bullying these obedient people, okay, you're going to bully me too. Now, back to the question, the support from diaspora.
Yep.
I was exposed to a lot of people living abroad, and it was so interesting to see how heavily involved they were in the election, right? Social media is a very powerful tool, and um, I still underestimate social media till now. I haven't fully understood, like, I don't understand the gravity of social media. I know it's powerful, but sometimes I'm amazed at how powerful it can be. And this person will send you a DM, say, oh, hi, I'm in the US. My sister is in so and so place. Can you help me track her
Hmm.
polling unit? Or she wants to pass a message so that I could give it to her, my sister. And again, space is kind of like dialing in on the radio. You hear these guys, they dial in. It's like 6 p.m. here in Nigeria. They're just waking up and they're listening to the space. While they're listening to the space, they're driving, they're going to work. They will park and say, oh, look, I'm about to head into work, but I need to say this. If you guys don't come out and vote, this is going to be the situation. We want to come back home. Yes, we are living fine abroad, but there's no place like home. We want to come back home. It's important for us. We miss home. There's certain things we cannot do, and the only place we can do it is back home. And during the rallies and all of that, they will send materials. There's this trust that okay, um, I'm going to send XYZ amount of materials to this person, reach out to this person is going to give you um this amount of materials. Okay, I'm going to support with DJ, I'm going to support this your medical outreach. I honestly had no clue that you could get that type of support.
Mm.
And I guess it's because they believed in something. They had they were already emotionally tied to this thing, this obedient movement. It was already an entity of its own, right?
Mm.
So they had built a strong relationship with it. So even if Weyimi was like, oh, she's no longer interested, congratulations to you, you can leave. The show must go on.
Mm.
Right. So it wasn't
So,
dependent on me. So that support, I didn't see that support coming, but it came. People
mhm.
flew back into Nigeria to vote. People flew back into Nigeria to vote.
Yes,
How?
and I believe, that Emeka, you knew some friends who went. I knew at least one friend who went back from London. So, Weyemi, so you came to national and in a lot of ways international limelight when you featured in
I
in a
have the most
CNN.
popular minivan ever built.
What?
This is
What? Oh, okay. All right. All right. So I'm gonna go back on that one. So you came to national and a measure of international limelight when you were featured in a CNN report on Peter Obi of the Labour Party. And I remember what you said then, that we're all running for president using Peter Obi. How was it for you? Because CNN, as I said, is an international medium, right? So how was life before and after that CNN appearance for you?
Okay, life before was very regular. I was just going about campaigning, wake up in the morning, pick up your phone, you got a tweet, you go outside, bang on everybody's gate. Do you have your PVC? Do you know who you're going to vote for? Then CNN came in, and when CNN came in, it's like, oh wow, this is a big deal. And I wanted to carry my support group along. So it's like, where do you want to do this? So I chose my friend's place because most of the guys that we work together, they kind of stay closer. They're all within his his neighborhood. It's kind of just like 30 minutes away. So I was like, if I do it here in my house, we might not cover that much because like my close circle of people that I campaign with, they're not necessarily where I stay. So let's move it to my friend's place. So we actually had that interview in my friend's place. So I call him up and I'm like, this is happening. Tell everybody to be on their best behavior. If I hear beep, something. So, you know, CNN comes and, at first I was kind of overthinking it because I'm like, okay, this is CNN. But when they were setting up, right, I was just like, okay. I think when I saw the setup, I was like, okay, this is not a dragon. And when I sat down and she asked me those questions, I just started to talk.
Mm.
I was literally talking from my heart. And, because in my head, I was like, oh my God, I hope when you're asking me, because I'm not going to start looking at the camera like, cameraman, did you get that? Do you want me to take it again? Are you sure you got that? No, I'm not in focus. Tell me, oh.
Mm.
It's just like, I sat down and I looked at her. I was like, and we're talking. It didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a conversation. And, so we paused and I look at my friends and we're like, you're doing good. You're doing good. And the interview's over. And camera guy says, he asks me, he's like, I'm sorry, how old are you again? And I tell him my age. Is like, you're well articulated. And, I think the entire crew, because I remember like, because I kind of felt like when you're being recorded, they should be
Mm.
looking at the camera, like looking, into the camera. But I could see, from my side, I could see the guy looking at me. And I was like, this guy, if you lose focus here, you know, and I guess because the conversation we were having at that point, it was personal to a lot of people, right? It was a very professional setting, lovely setting. And, the interview comes and it goes. As a matter of fact, I saw my interview online, right? So Stephanie called me. She was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. It's on now. It's on now. We didn't even have light at home that day." So my mom put on the jet, and the interview is over. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Did you guys like that? Did you guys like go on TV, drink some coffee or some beer or some origin?
Well,
I was like, DSTV, not now, not by the time put on the jet. DSTV was downloading. The interview was over. And my mom was like, "Just finished." Yes. So I didn't even watch so I come online and one guy sent me a message like, "Do you know you're on TV now?" I was like, "Oh, I didn't know it was today."
Wow.
And I wrote, "I'm on." How did I write? I wrote it like, "I'm on the CNN." I didn't even write that sentence properly. And everybody started to put in, and then people started to send me the videos, right? And at some point, everybody was like, "Yo, you don't look like the girl." It was like, so that was when I changed my name, because then I was just using my nickname and everything. So that was when I changed my name. And
Yes.
I remember when CNN asked
What was your nickname? What is your nickname, rather?
I think I was using B.Boss, right?
Be the boss.
And I remember Stephanie asking me, like, "What do you want your name to be?" And I thought long and hard. I was like, "I don't want my English name. I don't want my English name. I want my traditional name." And that was
What's your
actually,
English name?
my English name is Betty.
Okay, I was scared it was big.
I
I was scared it was big boss as well.
Weyimi boss.
I was like, I want
Betty is
Is it
anyway.
Betsy or Betty?
it's Betty, Betty.
Betty is your
So
Betsy
that
is it? Anyway, let me not go into the origins of Betsy. I'm not a. But anyway,
I was like, I want my Shakiri name on this. Like, I felt like
Yes.
that interview was, it wasn't about me. It was about every other person. So I didn't make that interview about me.
No,
right?
you didn't.
And I think that was why people resonated so well with that interview. Because someone asked me one time, like, "Why did you say Peter Obi is the poster child?" I was like, "Because he is. He's not the one running for presidency. Yeah, we are using his name, but it's you and I. If this thing works for the good, congratulations to us. If it goes south, congratulations to us." So
Yeah.
and that was like my name. I was like, okay. And at that time, when I was typing out Weyimi on my Twitter handle, Oseloka uploaded something. So I actually copied Oseloka's setting. His name is Oseloka H. Obaze on Twitter. So I was like, I like this your setting. So I copied mine. I was like, Weyimi B.
Yes.
So because the H in his name means Henry, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I didn't necessarily. I don't know. I felt like that letter B. I was like, do I want that B? I was like, do I want to completely go as a different person now? Right? Where people will be like, you look familiar. What does But I was like, no, I still want my whole entity, what makes me a person. Weyimi is one person, Betsy is one person. They're all combined in this vessel and they both bring different things. So that was how that name.
and by the way, two things. You have I don't believe you said what Weyimi actually means.
All right.
Plus,
So
you haven't told us your school stuff, if you want to again.
okay. Yeah. So
It's just interesting, that's all.
yeah. So my full name is Orishawemi, right? So it means
Olusheweyimi.
Yes.
Say that again.
Orishawemi.
Yes.
So it means God has my back, right? So God is behind me, right?
Yes.
So Orisha means
Yes.
God, and Weyimi, Weyimi is like, at the like behind. So when you say Orishawemis, so God has my back. And that's how I've always felt, right? And in that period, I wanted my name, I wanted that meaning of my name to take control of my life, because I'm like, I'm going into a new zone, a new territory, and I need to command something. I need
Yes.
some form of affirmation. So when you call my name, you're reaffirming that, yeah, God is behind you in this new path of your
Amen.
life. If you're going to do this for the next 6 months, this 6 months, God is always going to be here. And after CNN, right, again, some people call it fame. I don't see it as fame. I see it as everyday life. I was just opportune to be on a platform. Of course, it opened doors for me. Of course, I got more recognition, right? And funny enough, that year I was kind of telling myself that this 2023, I have to blow on social media. Me too, I want to be somewhat popular. I want to have
Yes.
followers, but I was just saying it in a very vain way. I wasn't saying it
Yes.
because I actually, wanted to, have a platform that I could do something. Obviously, I've always wanted to have a platform, but I wanted to have a platform that would make an impact. I didn't want to be one of those people that were just online. Yeah, of course, I can come online, we can play, have fun, tease each other, say silly things. But when it's time to get serious, I wanted to be like, yeah, it's serious stuff, right? So when CNN happened, I underestimated how that can kind of, shoot you, right? Already, I already gathered like 10,000 followers just by just doing those recordings. And when I clocked 10,000, it was somebody else that told me. It was on a Saturday. I was like, congratulations, you hit 10K. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. It has always been like that for me, because I'm like, this is what I call, it's kind of like vanity for me. I see it as vanity matrix, because I know people who do not even have up to 1,000 followers and they're doing so well. So I don't want you
That's
to
right.
think because I have followers, my life is perfect. I'm some form of icon, right? I don't want to set unrealistic expectations, and neither do I want to portray something I'm not. I'm still the girl that walks around the street. I'm still the girl that will still carry nylon. If my mother calls me now to go to the bus stop and buy stuff, I best believe I will, right? And with that CNN, it came with a lot of, oh, you should start doing this now. Oh, you should start doing that now. Oh, you have a beautiful voice. You should do this. You should start a podcast. And I didn't want to just, because, oh, I bagged a couple of followers now. My followership is increasing. People are hearing what I have to say more. I'm like, before CNN, people were hearing what I was saying. And even without CNN, people will still hear me. Probably the path would have been different. And I didn't want to be one of those people that, oh, now because I have followers. So I'll tell people, oh, guys, I'm starting something, please. No, I wanted to really take my time, because that was not even why I was on social media. I came on social media because I wanted to campaign for someone. And I was doing this because I want my life in this country, outside this country, to have a meaning. So I wasn't going to, a lot of people were, like, oh, monetize the CNN. Now, and now you have CNN, you can talk to this person, talk to that person. I'm like, I don't think I've even built that capacity, social capital network to say that, oh, I can, I don't want to just be known as that girl that went on CNN. I want to be known as so much more. I want to be known as, oh, that girl that loves to read. I want to be known as, okay, that girl that loves to help, right? And I was always talking about starting a podcast, but because of campaign season, I slowed that down. And sometimes people still send that, oh, when are you going to start your podcast? And I was like, look, starting a podcast now, I feel is going to be vain. Yeah, I could bag some subscribers on YouTube or any streaming platform, but I don't want to be one of those people that will just speak to a mic and not make sense or say nothing. It's kind of like, oh, because you feel you've arrived, So therefore, I want to start a business so that I can tell people that believe that I have arrived to buy from me and cash out.
You should sell t-shirts. Wear me for the future. Wear me for the future. Boss being for the future.
I didn't want to. And sometimes some people could say that, oh, you're very unserious. You don't know what you want for yourself. Yeah, you're right. I don't know what I want for myself, but I know what I want for myself in the next 2 hours. I don't even know what I want for myself tomorrow.
So speaking about that, right? So two questions. So Emeka has asked a couple of times if you would say where you went to school.
Yeah, so I went
maybe
to Ogun State University, right?
Yes.
I have a BS in computer engineering.
In computer
engineering.
Yeah,
Is this so, right? Also? Oh, man, that's
wow.
Cool. That's cool. Used to have a reputation back in my day, man.
Oh, really? What
She knows
kind of
what I'm talking. She knows what I'm talking about. I didn't say it. Don't care about that. It's not a reputation.
Your generation will call it Osu. We will call it
You call it, your generation will call it what?
We call it what?
OOU.
I'll tell you there, but I think Osu was just, man, like, most of my friends were lagged. Most of my friends were lagged, and now they're weekend spots.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. You have to ask them.
And anytime I tell people from like older generation that, oh, I went to Ogun State University, like, Osu, I'm like, no, you like, my friend, will you close your mouth? It's Osu.
I know Osu.
Ogun State University, and my experience in Ogun State University was a very interesting one, right? Because technically, I wasn't supposed to go to.
Wait, quick question, no? Do they still speak Yoruba there?
Yes, of course, they still speak Yoruba.
All of them, like Yoruba was a lingua franca. That's cool. Just that we need somebody who has graduated or in the final year.
Every time I tell people that, because I think a lot of people just believe that I've come from a social science, social arts related background, and I'm like, I'm actually an engineer. I might not be.
Okay, but seriously, every time I met somebody who you meet people, not all the time, but some people you meet from Osu or Onu or whatever you call it, or soup or whatever. I don't know. That you meet people who would be in that school, a lot of them, and if you didn't speak Yoruba, it was impossible to communicate with them.
Wow.
I'm trying to change, right? It's still very much like, you're like, if you didn't understand it, you're like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, I don't see the guys feel like they're like camped. You're like, whoa.
When I came into the university, the set before mine, they had set some form of reputation. It wasn't really the best reputation. So when I was 100 level, my sets were kind of more laid back. And they're like, you engineering students, you people, because of what the guys, they were now in 200 level, had done. And one of my best friends was in 200 level. I'll be like, what did you people do? Because they're not giving us breathing space. It's like, we showed them. And my friend was like, we showed them Pepe.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow, man.
Stressed us. So my experience in Ogun State University was a very isolated one, right? Because I don't know if a lot of people...
I agree with you.
Yeah, but I was
not
Agoiwe campus.
Okay.
I don't know if people know this, but Ogun State University is divided into 5. So we have Ago, Ikene, Shagam, Ayetoro, and Ibogun, depending on what you're studying. So I was in Ibogun, right? Okay. So anytime I tell people that, I'm like, where is Ibogun? I'm like, Obasanjo's village, Ota.
Okay.
Right? And that place was way more isolated than Ago. Ago still has a social life. Ibogun was you and the air.
You and nature.
You
Yeah,
and
that thing is like, imagine you coming from overseas, right? And you see your boys in school in Nigeria. You're like, hey,
and
what's the hand up? They're like, side us, like, somebody's
you
like,
know
yeah,
what? I had already gained
yes,
admission. I had already gained admission before
yes.
I knew that I was not going to be in Agor. Mind you, my siblings went to Osu as well, right? So when I was
Wow.
coming in, my
Oh,
sister
now
was in
you're calling to Sue as well.
I mean, I was I was in 100 level and my sister was in 400, right?
Oh,
And you know, my sister and I, myself, my sister, and my cousin, we stayed in the same apartment. It was a very big apartment, and my brother was downstairs. My parents just bundled us in one compound. You upstairs, you downstairs. There's no need to go far. Everybody will be here, right?
yes.
So you know, so the girls were upstairs. My brother was downstairs at the back, and you know, some people would come and be like, how one family will stay in the same compound? Usually you would see like if it's a boy, he stays in a different compound and everything. But the compound was a
Yes.
pretty decent compound, right? I mean, why
Hmm.
go far? And the rooms were big, right?
Hmm.
So when I came in 100 level, and everybody knew that, yeah, this is this person's sister. My sister and I, we sort of had, I don't see the resemblance, but you could see
Mhm.
me, I'm like, now that troublemaker sister be this. And everybody knew
Ah!
my sister was that person that doesn't talk too much, but if you poke her, she's going to definitely give it back to you. So,
Wow.
my brother was the more laid back one and everything. My
Hmm.
brother is kind of like, don't worry, I got your back in this school. But if trouble were to happen now, you will see my brother or it's my sister. You will see. Before you see
Yeah.
my brother, drama has ended. Doesn't my brother is coming in. Right? So, you know, so when I'd be in my room and my sister's friends would come in and they'd be like, okay, this now your sister be this, she's a fresher. What course? I'm like computer engineering. Like, ah, and they're like, so you're not staying in Agor? I'm like, no. So you have to do
Hmm.
1 year in Agor, then 200 to 500, you do it in Ibogun. And I always found it
Wow.
weird. I'm like, if I'm not even going to stay in Agor, why am I even here for 100? Just take me there from the get go.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So I was basically a fresher twice. So I was a fresher
Hmm.
in Agor and I was a fresher again because I was starting 200 level in a different environment.
Wow.
So when I was in Ibogun, I underestimated how that really did a lot to my mental health, right? So it was a more male dominated place than females.
Hmm.
And it was a lot of gossip because there isn't that much of a social life. So everybody's talking about everybody. When my best
Hmm.
friend was telling me then that this place is a small place, all we know how to do is talk about each other. I thought he was I just thought he was downplaying it.
Hmm.
And I had such a rough time, right? Because I think people thought I fit in, but I had such a rough time because I think the environment wasn't working for me. So I was always ill. I was always ill and, trying to keep up with classes and everything. And it was just a very, very rough period for me.
Hmm.
And most of my friends were not from my set. They were like a level or two higher than me. So I never really related to people in my set. Right? I
Hmm.
just kind of spent time with people in the higher set or people that were significantly older than me. Right? I mean, because they never necessarily made me feel like the people that I relate with, they didn't make me feel young. I mean, I came into university at a very tender age, right? So when I came in at 200 level, most of my friends were 500 level students. They were leaving. So
Hmm.
when they left, I was really alone. I was
Hmm.
like, it was rough because I was at 200 level that was rolling with 500 levels. And the reason being is some of them knew my sister. So they were like,
Hmm.
oh, they knew my sister, they knew my brother. So they took me as their own, right?
Hmm.
So when you see me roll with them, it's kind of like, oh, that credibility from her sister and,
Hmm.
her brother, all of that. So when they left, I was dead. It felt even worse, right? Because I
Yes.
really could not relate to people in my set. We had different interests, like we were studying the same course, but I was processing things differently because when you're studying engineering, the foundation is you have to be a problem solver,
Hmm.
right? And and they will tell you like some of the lectures that I enjoyed were not the lectures that were heavy in math and solving. They were more of the lectures that had a lot of critical thinking, conversations, right? Where the lecturer would stop and talk about one or two things and relate it. And I only had like 1, 2, 3, give or take 4 lecturers that did that. So I always enjoyed, and you will mostly find me with those lecturers, like find me like having conversations with them. And
Which engineering did you do, by the way? You haven't said
what
so yet. Which
I said,
engineering? Computer
computer.
engineering. Oh, okay. I think I was all right.
Yeah,
But
so and it took me a minute to actually, have a relationship with these lecturers because I was very much that backbench kid. So I think it was one time when one lecturer called me, was like, when I ask you questions in class, you don't respond like a student would. You respond like, okay, it's a real life situation, and I like that. And he was like, you might not necessarily have an easy time, right? Because of, I kind of understand how you process things. So he asked, and I'm like, oh, for example, XYZ, like, but he was like, you're going to make a fine teacher if you decide to teach. He was like, I don't see how people will fail your course unless you just want to, right? So I was like, oh, thank you. And when he said that, I never really paid attention to it. Then my HOD, the HOD before, yeah, because I went through 3 HODs. So the first person that told me that was my first HOD. My second HOD, I think he thought I was not paying attention in class. So he just called me up and he asked me a question. He was like, you explain really well, right? So that HOD, I remember having a conversation with him, and he talks more about, like, in his private time when he's not in lecture, like when you just see him at the hallway, he's talking more about, life experiences. And even when he teaches, like, I don't even like to use that word lecture because I feel like it's a bit too serious, right? And I just enjoyed. Then the last HOD that I went through was just something else. Not necessarily everybody's favorite person, not even my favorite person. But I do say that at least 1 or 2 things he said, out of so many things that he said that I don't necessarily agree with because we're just not, he was just not my cup of tea, did make sense. So, you don't necessarily realize it because, like, everybody in engineering, they're coming to they have this mindset of, oh, you have to come in here, you must solve all the math, you must be so mathematical about everything. But for me, it was kind of like the foundation is you're a problem solver, right? That's what it is. If you can't find a problem to solve, create a problem and solve it.
And solve it.
And I remember this seminar in 200 level, one man came and he said something. He was like, I think you guys take this whole engineering thing a little bit too serious. Find something you can solve, and that is what makes you an engineer. It's not because you are the one solving all the dy, the x, and the dv, right? It was like, no,
equations and all.
and all of that. It was like, yeah, sure, those are things that will get you to pass, but in the real world, it's not like that.
So
right?
let me sort of take us to a different tangent, right? So in that CNN interview, you has said that all of you were running for president, that Obi was simply sort of the symbolic
Yes.
candidate that you had adopted. So if Obi had won the presidency, of course, a lot of us believe that he won, that he was robbed, and I believe that that's your position. You've stated it. So let's imagine that Obi had been declared president. How would the youth, young people like you who worked so hard for his campaign, how would you have ensured that he would be accountable to your dreams, to your desires, and ultimately to your vision as president? How would
All
you
right.
have
So
ensured that
there is
his
something I need to
government and
say.
his policies were aligned with
So there's
with the
something I
dreams
used to
of
say
those
back
who
then.
work for him?
I would say, as soon as Obi wins, I'm going to sleep for 1 month. Nobody should call me. I want to rest. Right? But if he was declared, I read his manifesto. And funny enough, Obi didn't even need to say too much to me. He just understood what it like. Yeah, I get you. I'm not promising you heaven and earth, but I'm willing to learn as we go. And that was it for me, right? I'm not one of those people that will come and start quoting. Again, I'm a simple person. It's about how you can relate to the common man for me. I'm not, and I don't see myself as an analyst. When people say, "Oh, I'm an analyst," I'm like, "What makes me an analyst?" I don't know what it's like, right? So, if he was declared, I know for a fact that where we are right now in Nigeria, it wouldn't be like this. I know that it's not going to be an easy run, but I know that I would not be complaining this much. There would be some form of cushion plan, right? At least there would be some form of numbing cream on my skin to not feel certain effects while those things are being fixed. And my generation, we sometimes we can be a bit overboard and way out of our head. And I think it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Because when we hold you in high regard and high esteem, we expect you not to mess up. And I can kind of see how that can, put someone into like, oh my God, I'm being pressured because I've been there before. But Obi has a way of like, I've met him, please, met him give or take 2-3 times. The second time, it was in a lecture, right? I almost missed that lecture. That was like the first, that was like the first time that like I really, really looked at him, right? And I'm not somebody that likes to. I don't like to paint people in like this godlike image. I don't even paint Obi in this godlike image, but I paid attention that day. And the way he answered those questions, even the ones he didn't know, he was very admitted, like, oh, look, I don't know this. I don't know this blockchain thing we're talking about. But if you say it is going to help Nigerians and Nigeria, I promise you, we will do it together. There was this guy that came on that particular lecture. He was talking about agriculture in the most phenomenal way possible. And Pio was like, I know you. I've read about you. Oh, like, I'm interested. There's this interest. So if you're interested in the people, right, it's not difficult for me to say, sir, I think you goofed here. Let's next time, don't say this. Can we do this like this? Right? And I know for a fact that he will listen. Take, for example, when the campaign started, like, oh, Pio, you don't have good pictures. I know the Pio is like, what do I know these pictures for? But to us, I'm like, to us, the young ones, like, you don't have, I'm like, everybody is your picture self now. Abba, make work easy for us now. And I'm pretty sure, and he says, like, these children, what do you people want? Right? I'm just really imagining, it's like, what do you people want? Do you want my blood? And somehow he buckled up and he did that. So it's like Pio has sometimes I feel like Pio suffers from see finish. Like we've seen him in and out. Like, oh God, we've seen you finish. You can't even if you shout, you can't even shout at us. If you can't even tell us to sit down. If you don't want to sit down, we won't sit down. Right? So he has given us that accessibility. Right? So because of that accessibility is there, it's easy to say, okay, Your Excellency, sir, sit down first. Come, let's talk. You know that thing you did. It's not working, Abby. You agree,
I like
Shay?
that. Sit down first. Come, let's talk.
You agree, Shay? You agree, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Next time, let's do it like this. And I'm very sure Pio will say, like, okay, I see you. And even if Pio doesn't agree with us, Pio is going to tell us that, look, you might not understand this thing yet, but this is how this is. I'm like, okay. With Pio, you can meet in the middle, right? You can definitely meet in the middle. Again, I know zero about politics. I'm still learning about this thing. But with Pio, I just like right now, gone are the days where I'm trying to defend. No, he did not say this. No, he did not say that. Have you read this? I'm like, look, the man sells himself. The man sells like there was a time that at some point I'm like, every time he's always wearing black, black, white, black, white, black. I'm like, oh, so you should wear red, Abby, because he's an idol worshiper. Abby, is that what you want? So, all these like I just know that at least I would worry less. I wouldn't have to complain and now it's kind of like, oh, you're complaining, and there's this level of political gaslighting going on, like, oh, your complaints are invalid. You're not the only one. Nigeria is not the only one too. So why are you complaining? With Peel, I would never do like that. But right now it feels like, you have to really have a very strong mindset to not be gaslit. Because people talk about at some point, and even to now, I dread using that word gaslighting because I felt like we overused it. That maybe we don't even know the meaning of gaslighting. Maybe we don't know the meaning of gaslighting, so we are just using it. But truly, we were being gaslit. It was a very sick form of abuse that we were going through mentally. With pure, I would not be tolerating. Right? I feel like as Nigerians, we tolerate a bit too much and we think it's a flex. This thing that they say, oh, Nigerians are the most tolerable people in the world. We are like, yeah, a round of applause. We can take anything and everything, throw it at us. It's really not the flex we think it is. Because we tend to, normalize abnormalities. Thinking that, oh, yeah, we're very good at tolerating, so we'll just take this one. Or maybe if we're not so tolerable, we would not have corrupt politicians getting away with things that they're getting with because they're like, oh, these people are not going to take it. They know we are not going to take it. They wouldn't do it. Like I always say, leadership and followership, there should be a level of balance where the leaders fear the followers, because if the followers revolt, it's not going to be funny. And there should be a level of fear for the leaders, because if the leaders decide to, get the followers to fall in line, if they misbehave, they will. But I feel like it's one-sided. There is no balance. There is no meeting in the middle with this current situation we are in Nigeria. Before the show started, a pregnant woman fainted at trade fair because she was hungry, heavily pregnant, and I was like, wow. You hear people faint every day. You see people faint every day. So like this is the first time someone is fainting, like out of hunger. It hits differently because now we are all singing the same tune. We are hungry. As at this evening, the dollar is 1,700 plus. When I said this last year that we are going to hit 2,000, they were trying to gaslight me and say, oh, you are very pessimistic, you're unpatriotic. What makes me unpatriotic? Because I'm calling out the abnormalities. I love Nigeria. I love being a Nigerian. It's an honor to be from this country. But I'm not going to be one of those people that will not call out our flaws. They say you're making Nigeria look bad. How is me saying we don't have 247 power supply me making Nigeria look bad? And they say, oh, that's a normal thing by now. No, it's not normal. It's not normal. Oh, we have banditry. We have terrorists on social media making videos. I talk about that. Weyimi is a witch. Why are you amplifying these things? You're chasing away investors. I'm like, do you think investors are stupid? They're definitely going to do their own. They're going to do their own due diligence. Before I said it, they have Google is free. So it's not me. I didn't publish this. Somebody else did the research. I just went to verify the news. I'm like, do you think if I wanted to play propaganda, I wouldn't. Trust me, I would sit down today, open my laptop, read about propaganda, find some of the best propagandas in the world. I like to think of myself as a creative person when I apply myself. I will cook up a propaganda and you can't beat me at it, but I choose not to because that's not who I am. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to, even if I'm going to play in the mud with you, I'm still going to maintain some level of superiority, right? So we can keep deceiving ourselves and saying that, oh, we are making Nigeria look bad. But the only way to fix something that is bad is identifying that it's bad. I'm not going to say that, oh, because it's my person that is there, I'm not going to call you out. No. If I don't love you, I will not call out your flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And I say all the time that it's also how you say these things. If you tell me that, oh, I think you need to work on you. Okay, I have a paper here. If I want to tell my little one now, my baby sister, that okay, your handwriting is too small, I'm not gonna come my hand and start shouting that your handwriting is small. This is look, your handwriting is not really visible to certain eyes. Can you just make it a bit bolder? At least that way, I know that I've identified the problem. She
Mm-hmm.
knows that okay, her handwriting, and truly her handwriting is actually very small. But
Mm-hmm.
she knows I've identified it and we're going to fix it. It doesn't mean I'm trying to berate her. It doesn't mean I'm trying to make her feel like, oh, she doesn't know how to write. It just means that I think she can fix it and it's fixable.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't, this is 2024. There are certain conversations we should not even be having. The world is moving forward. Yes, the world has economic crisis, but that is not an excuse. Just because one country, one so-called, oh, America is going through it, Canada is also dealing with it. UK, no. So because that's an excuse, that's a leverage.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
Just because
it's different from when America deals with it. Because at least in America, no matter how things have gone up, probably around 30% inflation rates, we deal with it. We spend more. Definitely from 2-3 years ago, we're talking about 30% in the last 2.5 years. So, but I was in Nigeria over the summer with the whole family, and I was just like, wow, things are wow. That was like in August, and I was talking to a friend, and he's like, bro, at least you're coming back to a job and you're getting paid. If all that's going to happen is you're going to save less. That's about it. Pretty much, that's pretty much the case.
for free that if you see, you earn 30,000 naira, minimum wage, that is going to just buy you one spaghetti, one sachet Milo, one sachet milk, butter. It really is not too much. And we've not calculated cost of transportation, right? So even if you're earning 150,000 naira a month, 100,000 naira a month, you are doing 2.5 as transportation Monday to Friday, right? So 2.5 times 5, like, you do all of that math times in a month, you deduct that. How much are you spending? How much are you saving? And even from your savings, you have to tap into that savings because you have to eat, right? I was having a space yesterday with my friend. We're just talking about like, oh, the state of the nation. And the guy came, he was like, go and check on your parents. So there's no money for burial this period. Oh.
Yeah, for real, man. It's wild,
Wow.
though. That's true. I mean, that's very true.
He said it, and I was like, I chuckled, I laughed, and I was like, that's actually true.
Yeah.
And because of that, I had to write it sweet. I was like, go and check up on your parents. So there's no money for burial.
Ah,
I was
something.
like, the guy was like, do you know the price of coffin now? Oh God.
Wow.
It's not a small thing at all.
Yeah,
It's
to
not
say
funny.
nothing, of course. Yeah, to say nothing about the price of rice, which is become a huge staple in Nigeria. The story that stuns me still is that last year in March, I was in Nigeria, and just after the elections, and people were complaining that a bag of rice was 8 to 10,000 naira. Then I came to Nigeria in October, and it risen to 50 something thousand. And I was there in January. It had surpassed 60,000, and somebody was just telling me a few days ago that a bag of rice is now about 70,000. So talk about a country where the minimum wage is 30,000, and where some states are not even paying the 30,000. So anyway, but it's just something that I wanted to put in there. Emeka, I think you have a question.
We've gone on for a while. It's very interesting to your passion. You're passionate, and it shows how you have an organic growth, especially on social media. You're very passionate, not in a negative, because whether it's Twitter Spaces or anywhere, if you've encountered Nigerians, the passionate-ness, passionatity, whatever you might call it, it's very, very terrible. You don't know what yes.
I think, well, I can only speak for myself. And okay, I think maybe I can speak for people. We are sometimes overly passionate that it clouds our judgment.
Judgment? Is there a judgment or lack thereof? I don't think there's any judgment in some of these people. If you have people who are overseas, especially, who are getting paid to gaslight a whole bunch of people, which yes, I'm not calling names, but I am telling you categorically, provide evidence. Who are categorically, and there's some in Nigeria that have massive platforms who are categorically getting paid to gaslight people. Yeah, that's not judgment. That's just a level of an absence of reason. So it doesn't exist. These people are not, a lot of them, and not just them, a lot of people, these people are not reasoning. Whether you are going on tribal basis in Nigeria, whatever they're doing, and you're saying this is the direction we should go into. A lot of these people is not even, I just don't feel like there is people that are having judgment. I just feel like they are going with if you go back to the old Greek, sometimes I do, because that is the oldest recorded, even though their sources will point to Africa, by the way. That's the oldest recorded, even though it was also translated by Islamic sources in the 11th century. But they talk about the soul. Plato talks about the soul, three souls. Let's not get into that. But it's just a question of which he gets into this thing, Thomas Aquinas, if he also goes and elaborates even in a more definitive way. The irrational, there are three parts of three directions the soul can go, but the irrationality, the animalistic distance, if you're not able to form your soul, you're not able to form yourself, there's a lack of that formation. To get back to Nigeria, that almost never occurs in the typical, doesn't matter where they are, the rest are overseas. So there's this animalistic drive. I think it's a disservice to animals. Some of these people say, I think animals at least, they have some. It's like, what are you talking about? You get this person, people say, yeah, dollar is more now. I'm like, bro, dollar is more. I live in America. I agree. But here's the problem. My outgoing quadruples. Because everybody's broke now. It's not. So I don't know. I don't know what you're thinking. I understand. You're looking at it, dollars in and out. But trust me, it was better 2 years ago. It was better 5 years ago. It was better 7 years ago. Everybody you're talking with right now is quadrupling. There's nobody that is saying hi to you. It's like, I never trouble. Somebody is sitting there telling people something different. Like, first off, when you start saying, let me call the person, just like what you're saying, hey, check up on people, your parents, or by extension, other people, older people, like, hey, man, how you doing, man? It's going to already. Everybody is, it's like, bro, trust me, if you're you're a gas station attendant in this country, whatever you're doing, your outgoing, if you're being honest, has quadrupled. Everybody is, you are trying to do as much as you can or you should. I don't know, you have to put yourself in your category. So it just it's what you see, like these guys are they have some rationalities, like which one? Yeah, to be honest, it's sure it's an sense of reason. But, it gets down to for you, where do you see the country going this year? I think this year is even typically we would ask like what do you see the country in 10 years time? What do you see yourself in 10 years time? If you also want to answer that, but it seems very the term people would like to use is existential. I have a problem using that term, but you get the concept of, because from more of a philosophical point of view anyway, but yeah.
I don't even blame them. Sometimes, if not all the time, I always tell myself not everything is black and white. There's something I always call grayish. It's like my thing. Actually, black and white is like most times when I take pictures or make a small video addressing something, I make it in black and white because I'm trying to send a message that, look, not everything is black and white. There's always a grayish side. But in this case, it is actually black and white. This one, it is just the way it is. If there is no overhaul, if there is no overhaul, I'm afraid it will definitely be there was once a country, and it's going to be I'm very scared of using this word, but surely if there is no overhaul, then we have officially become a banner with stain.
Is she frozen?
That is like how, and it is just, it is scary to think about it, that
it's interesting that Weyimi was saying something really profound there.
Nigeria, and someone will say, "Oh, isn't that your country that XYZ is going on?" And I'll be like, "Yeah," and I probably have to bury my head in shame.
Hopefully sort itself out. Oops.
Or did we lose her? Or maybe she'll log back in.
Sorry, guys.
Yes.
So, as I was saying, we will officially become a banner with a stain. I will be one of those people that you'll ask, "Oh, are you a Nigerian?" And I'm going to say, "Yes, I'm Nigerian." Yeah, yes, that is my country. Because I'm not going to deny it. My accent is going to give it away. My name is going to give it away. It will always follow me. And that, in the process, I like to ask.
You can change your name. You can change your name. You can reform your accent. Oh, this is by the way. So that's your excuse. That's not an excuse. So you can also have that to the middle or something like that. Who knows?
But by the way, Weyimi, before you were cut off, you were saying that that you were speaking about the condition of the country and how you see things turning out, maybe in the short run, before you were frozen.
It's not looking good. It really is not looking good. I'm not going to pretend. We are in hot soup right now. Every day we wake up, the dollar is increasing. In what world do you negotiate with terrorists online? In what world do you, I don't, just during the festive period, Christmas, we had a terrorist attack in Plateau. Everybody seems to have moved on from that, but I haven't. I have not. Things are not going great for us, and if
I saw you posted, I saw you posted Very Dark Man's. You posted Very Dark Man's. He was one of the few people that actually went there physically to go take a look at what happened there.
And I when I posted, I said, "Look, what's happening I can't remember what I said. I posted it, and I posted that with mixed feelings because it was kind of like two sides, because I didn't necessarily agree with what he said, but I wanted my caption to kind of like, override what he was saying. Because as far as I'm concerned, what is happening in Plateau is an ethnic cleansing. Let's not try to make it look like, oh, it's mineral resources. No, that's not what it is. It's an ethnic cleansing. An entire ethnic group is being wiped out. And we're acting like, okay, now it's just another day. It's just another day under the sun. No, it's not. And I kept on saying, look, Plateau State is not that far from your state. What is happening can just come and hit you. But anytime I say that, oh, Plateau is not far, when I say Plateau State is not far from Delta, Plateau State is not far from Ekiti, someone is always saying, oh, yes, it's very far. I'm like, why do you think I'm talking about kilometers here? That is the point. That is really not the point. And it's like every single time we have to keep saying this. We have to keep saying it, that something has to give. We need a complete 360. We need a complete overhaul. Like, pour this thing on the ground. Like, just, if this country is a carton, pour everything out of that carton and let's start picking it. Like, okay, what do we need? We need this, put it back in the carton. No, we don't need this trash this away. If something does not give, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not sorry to say it. Okay, am I sorry to say it? Okay, whichever one makes you sleep better at night. If nothing gives, truly, it will be there was once a country when we talk about Nigeria. Because we're very, as I said, we love wickedness in this country. We love to tolerate a lot. We don't know when to say enough. It's almost like we're suffering from some form of Stockholm syndrome. We love our abusers so much. So we're going to keep taking it and taking it and taking it and taking it. And before you know it, we will just be zombies. I'm trying to look for something worse than being a zombie, dead networking, but nothing comes to mind right now. Am I happy seeing that? Am I happy seeing that such a thing can happen? I'm not happy seeing it, but yeah, if something doesn't give anytime soon, yeah, that is what our reality will be like.
Yeah. Let me perhaps with my final question, Emeka and Weyimi, I don't know, because Weyimi, it's such a delight. I don't think we've had somebody. We've had some guests go 2+ hours, but it's really been such a delight having you. But let me ask, maybe this is my last question. Maybe I have a lot more questions to ask. But let's look at sort of what some people say, right? So when young people like you were canvassing for B and so on, a lot of critics dismissed you. They said, you are the social media warriors. On election day, you're not going to show up. Apparently, a lot of people like you were not only active on social media. On election day, you showed up. Okay. But then part of the crisis in Nigeria politically is that everybody seems to go to sleep after an election cycle, and a particular corrupt, inept government is sort of allowed to ruin the country for 3 years. And then suddenly Nigerians realize there's another election cycle coming up. And so there are all these ad hoc gatherings and realignments and so on. But in a lot of ways, it's too late because the party that is entrenched has already perfected a scheme to re-rig itself into power. So the question that I have for you, it's actually like a bunch of questions that I'm going to rope in together. Are there things that P2B, Labour Party, young people like you should be doing now in anticipation of the next round of elections? Or is there just such a profound level of apathy that a lot of young people said, sort of tell themselves, we did everything we could, it was stolen from us, so we're moving on. Some of us are going to japa, and those of us who stay here are going to be as, in a sense, cynical as it is, make our own way, however we can do it, right? So that's one question. Are there things that P2B and Labour Party can be doing today, young people can be doing today, to make sure that the disaster of last year does not repeat in another 3 years, right? And then to talk about another sort of criticism that is made of the Labour Party. Some people say, hey, the Labour Party is just like APC and PDP. And part of what they say today is that the Labour Party produced some governors and members of the House of Reps, and they are doing the same thing that these two major parties have always done. They're in the National Assembly, for example. They are rewarding themselves with SUV cars, with plush perks and so on. We don't see the Labour Party saying, hey, Nigerians are suffering. We who are elected officials are already, as it were, too privileged, as it were. So let's pause on us and let's look out for the common good and the common man first. So it's a bunch of questions, but I so do your best tackling any and all of it.
Let's start with Labour Party. Labour Party is not a perfect party. And I don't want to say, but yeah, other political parties are not perfect. I feel like if you are the party that you kind of have an advantage, you should fix up. Labour Party is heavily flawed. And I want to say that they have no excuse to be flawed, but then again, we all have our flaws. Is it fixable? Yes. Are they willing to fix it? That is the question they'll have to answer. For Labour Party, I feel they should be very, very intentional about the people. It should not just be another party that comes out every 4 years. Get involved with the people. Have again.
Oh boy, looks like we've lost her again.
Yes. So I don't want Labour Party to act like. I don't want Labour Party to act like, just another party. Be involved. Be intentional. At least if you get involved with the people, get involved in society, it wouldn't be so hard to identify and say, oh, that party that comes here every other day to do some form of education, because everything's boils down to education, right? So if Labour Party is very intentional about being that party that umbrellas a change, then they should make it very people-based. Clean up the cobwebs, answer the questions, be held accountable. Then as for PO should just keep doing what he's doing, right? PO is a good person as far as I'm concerned. He's not a saint, but at least he's a good person. The man has shown that he's intentional. I would say, okay, during the campaign season, we had a lot of youth dialogue, women dialogue. I feel like that can be brought back maybe once every quarter of the year. Make like that tour, get involved. Keep things familiar. Obviously, PO speaks out when, there is something to be said. I feel like certain things that we did, like especially those youth dialogues where he conversed with the youth, went to certain universities or brought out the students to a certain location, and same thing with the women and men. That
so hopefully that they will
living my best life.
Yes.
Oh, you see my shirt?
Well,
yeah, it says
you were speaking about P2B, and you said that he speaks when it is important and on issues and so on.
Yes. So for me, he should keep at that. But I would love it if we, circle back to when we have youth dialogues, if we can organize more youth dialogues, more women meetings, men meetings, market meetings, all of those things. It doesn't have to be every single time, but maybe we would do it in every quarter of the year if it's possible, right? I feel like that will rekindle a lot. That would show the intentionality. So it's not like, oh, he's coming to visit every 4 years, but this man comes, every single time. This is like a man we see on the road. That's our guy. Like, so when we even see him running naked, it's like, this is somebody that comes here every day now. We sit down together, we gist and everything, right? So I feel like it will do a lot. And I've gotten this suggestion as well, and I do believe a lot of people agree with me. Theo does have spaces with us through parallel facts. That's nice. And let me just use this to say, Theo, if you're seeing this, and I believe you see it, you have a very huge audience on Facebook. So can we also use Facebook and Instagram to pass your messages as well? There's an audience on those social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. I know Twitter is your domain, but Facebook and Instagram too, right? Yeah, so that can work. Then for we as the people, I think we have the bulk work. We need to really regroup and go under. And when I say go under, I mean we need to mind our words, because not everything you say online and in public. So we need to really gather ourselves and start to talk to ourselves and think of how we can teach people, because there really is a lot of education to do. Voters education, voters rights, apathy, all of these things. You cannot overemphasize why it's important to not sell your votes, right? We have to explain bigotry, because bigotry is a weapon that they tend to use over and over and over again. We have to preach equality. We have to preach equity. We have to preach oneness. We have to preach agreeing to disagree. We have to really, there's a lot of rewiring of the mindsets to do. So it falls on us, and how willing are we, right? So it's not just coming online and playing the opposition, right? Sometimes, right, like whatever skill you have, use that.
So
we can't see. Okay, good. So maybe, hopefully, if you finish this one, I think we'll round up so
Okay.
that it doesn't happen again. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as I was
All right.
saying, the people, we need a lot of education, sensitization. We need to learn and unlearn. We also need to sit with ourselves and address our own issues that we tend to project to other people, because we all have our demons that we're fighting. And I think those demons, they tend to scream a lot at other people, because, it's just easy to vent at other people rather than addressing the issues. We also need to really go under, as I've said, know when to bant, know when to speak online, and know when to regroup, because there's a lot. We are not facing a common enemy. Well, it's a common enemy, but we're not facing, when I say common, this is not your everyday, this is a very big issue that we need to fight. So we need to stop underestimating them and how far they can go, right? So yeah, it all boils down to education, educating people, talk about bigotry and why bigotry is not solution, talk about why you should not sell your vote, why your vote counts, all of those things. So all of those things, it does matter to us. It does matter to us. We need to really, really, really fix that.
Yeah, just one last thing, just briefly, if you could tell us. I mean, you're very energetic. You seem like you have less amounts of energy. You seem like you discovered the fountain of youth and energy somewhere as well.
She is youthful.
Tell us, so how do you get to, what do you do to relax? Or books you might read. If it's books, what might you be reading right now and stuff like that?
So I'm reading Someday Maybe, right? And I listen to a lot of old school music. I listen to New Edition, Boyz II Men, Billy Ocean, Bobby Brown, After Seven, Babyface. So I listen to a lot of 80s and 90s music. to help me relax. And I watch cartoons a lot. So if I'm not
When the going gets tough.
yes, if I'm not sleeping, I'm watching cartoons, listening to music, or reading a book.
What cartoons do you watch?
I love Tom and Jerry. I love SpongeBob. I love Scooby-Doo. I love there's this cartoon my younger siblings make me watch. What's the name of this cartoon? Oh, I can't remember the name right now.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
No. I love Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball is actually the only anime that, and I love Avatar. My siblings have been trying to get me to watch Naruto, but I feel like it's too long, so I wouldn't know where to catch up from. I love Steven Universe. I watch it every now and then on Netflix. Basically, any cartoon that I feel has meaning, but I feel like you have to be a genius to create a cartoon that tells a story. I feel like cartoons are like one of the hardest things to do, especially when you're targeting all age group. So that's why I tend to fall back to cartoons than movies. I mean, I watch movies, but I would rather a cartoon than a movie.
Well said. So,
Wow.
so we I mean, we appreciate you being
Thank
on.
you
It's been a
so
while. A little bit of network issues at the end.
I know.
But hopefully we need to have you on again. Certainly as things
Lots
progress.
and lots
so.
of questions we have,
Any
which
day,
we couldn't get
anytime
to.
I'm
but
here. I think this is by far the most
Wonderful.
interesting interview that I've ever had because it's very
Oh my gosh.
this is by far. I think because I was able to talk
Wow.
about things that I've never spoken about, right? You know,
Yes.
struggles, a little bit of imposter syndrome and all of that. It wasn't just about, you know, politics itself. I think I was able to kind of show a sneak peek of my life outside that. I think that's what it's like to keep that private.
Absolutely. Yes.
But yeah,
Yes.
I thank you so much for having me. This is by far really the most interesting platform I've been on.
It's
Oh
fun.
my God.
It was
Yes.
fun. We appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have you on again, see how things
We
progress in
will.
Nigeria.
Yes.
And we'll see how things go. I take it day by day with Nigeria. Who knows?
Thank you so
Who knows,
much.
man?
Yeah.
I can't wait to read your book. I'm so excited.
But I'm telling you that I'm a bit nervous.
No.
So if you finish reading it and you love it, let me know.
Definitely.
If you don't like it, let me know all the same.
I will.
So I'll write a better book just for you.
Oh.
All right.
All right.
Yes.
All right.